Plants have conquered all environments: volcanic lands, dry deserts, estuaries, ice and snow, and even the asphalt of our cities. Deprived of legs, they have invented various forms of sexuality in order to conquer the world. Their strategies have enabled them to take root in the most extreme places on the planet. Some plants can grow.
Around almost every hot spring, you'll find grasses of varying types growing up against the hot water. The high temperature water cools off very rapidly, such that these plants can grow in these environments. But there are some plants that are very, very interesting. One known as, its scientific name is dicanthelium, but its more generic name is hot springs panic grass. It looks like weeds in my front yard, but it's this grass right there with the purple edges to the grass leaves. This particular plant has a fungus growing associated with its roots. And researchers at Montana State University have shown that this fungus relationship with this plant is what allows this plant to grow at these higher temperatures and tolerate high temperatures. The mechanism is not yet known, right? But somehow this fungus is imparting some protective measure or causing the plant to react some way that allows it to protect itself from these higher temperatures.
Next to the acid hot springs, plant roots grow on the surface to optimize the capture of oxygen. They have also developed the capacity to withstand the heavy metals present in these hostile environments. Plants get their energy from the sun. Scientists call this photosynthesis. Algae are the first plants that appeared at the beginning of life on Earth. Unable to leave their aquatic environment, they are already masters of photosynthesis. When the temperature drops, algae produce colored substances and sugars that act as an antifreeze. Some algae will even accept to be swallowed by gelatinous organisms, whose envelope will protect them from extreme cold. During the brief summer season of Spitzberg, an archipelago near Greenland, the sun never sets. It shines 24 hours a day, an ideal season to study the growing vegetation. The Earth's crust will thaw in summer, but remains low in minerals. This severely limits the rate of growth and density of the vegetation.
Wherever there's a form of shelter, where seeds accumulate, where sediments accumulate, we immediately have vegetation that settles in. Here's a typical and pretty area of Dryas that is growing. The plants, once rooted, will try to gain ground. We can see it here, for example. So basically, the goal is to hang on and gain inches bit by bit.
Just how do these plants colonize such cold, bare lands? To succeed, they group together, which enables them to store what little heat is available. An efficient way of conquering the surroundings. Some of the plants that live here are over 100 years old.
There are two explanations for this. The first is being able to resist the wind and cold temperatures, and they do this by growing in clusters. The second is the plant's compost. Plants that die leave their own fertilizer, their own organic matter, for those who come after. The generations of plants that die on this spot here form fresh earth on the surface.
The grouping of plants serves as a breeding ground for other plants, such as the hairy lousewort. The plant is well acclimatized. It produces a hairy, feathery lining to protect it against the cold. The lining is so tight, it acts as insulation and plays an important role in the screening of harmful sun rays. The Edelweiss uses the same technique. Its flowers are protected by a duvet, a strategy used by many plants to avoid being naked in the cold. This technique is also used to protect plants from heat, like this cactus. Microscopic hairs allow plants to retain water, necessary for their survival. Some of them are shaped like anchors for catching droplets. Each form of hair is perfectly adapted to a particular environment. The most developed and most dense vegetation is located in an even more extreme environment: steep, sharp cliffs.
Oh, look over there. Can you see? Between the zones of scree where rocks have fallen, at the foot of the pillars there, you have an area covered in green. Let's go and take a look. We're going over to the steep area. We don't really know what type of terrain we'll meet. Probably very unstable. There are zones of really high erosion. It's a very steep slope there. It's very unstable. To study biodiversity, you really need to reach the ecosystem, and some are not easy to get to, but that can also be the reward, taking risks to get to places that nobody has observed. This whole area is an extreme within an extreme. Well, this is unexpected, very unexpected. Here we have plants that are in fruit or even in flower.
How do these plants find organic matter in such an inhospitable environment?
Finding plants at a more developed stage here, hanging on a cliff at 100 meters of altitude, is really surprising. At the same time, it's not a mystery. We're just below a bird colony, so basically their food falls from the sky. Here we have guano that brings nitrogen, the nutrient material which also allows a whole host of bacteria, plants, mosses and lichens to colonize this environment.
Lichens are a combination of algae and fungi that fragment in order to multiply. It may take them 50 years to cover 1 square centimeter. Within the lichen, the fungus filaments capture water and minerals and provide protection for the algae. The algae captures light for photosynthesis and brings energy to the fungus. Symbiosis is their force. Other plants have invented more radical solutions in order to survive in nutrient-poor environments.
Venus flytraps naturally live on the border of North and South Carolina in the southeast part of the United States. This is the only place in the world that they are naturally found. It's an area of about 20 square miles or about 40 square kilometers. Why aren't all plants carnivorous? And the answer is both simple and complicated. On the simple side, first off, really we can say that all plants really are carnivorous because all plants get minerals and nutrients through their roots, and those minerals and nutrients are basically made up of dead animals that have rotted and decomposed in the soil, and the plants are sucking those up. But the kinds of carnivorous plants that we see where the leaves have actually changed shape to make traps, this is very different. And this is an accident of evolution that probably happened about 50 million years ago. It actually happened about 6 times among the entire plant kingdom. And some plants, those plants growing in very nutrient-poor conditions, evolved a particular mutation to allow them to capture insects and extract the minerals and nutrients directly from the insects.
How do these plants catch insects? How do they move so fast without having muscles and nerves?
The Venus flytrap is taking the energy that's stored in water, pumping it out very quickly to close the trap, and then repumping that water back in to reset the trap.
It's at the hinge of the trap that cells fill with water, causing the closure of the lobes. These tiny hairs trigger the trap. When prey successfully touches 2 sensory hairs within 20 seconds, it activates the death trap that immediately closes. For the plant, the advantage is obvious. A small twig will not action the trap for nothing. Only the agitation of an insect is likely to trigger a second hair. The sensitivity of the hairs is so finely adjusted that the fall of raindrops will not trigger the trap. How does the plant manage to eat such large prey? Carnivorous plants are not only mouths, but also stomachs. They use these multiple red enzymes to reduce their prey to a pulp.
The plant secretes enzymes, just like people have digestive enzymes in their stomachs that dissolve the insect. And then the plant just absorbs all the nutrients in the juices that were left from the dissolved insect.
Carnivorous plants only digest the soft flesh of their prey. All that remains is the insect's exoskeleton.
It takes a Venus flytrap about 3 to 5 days to completely digest an ant or a fly that it has caught.
The Venus flytrap will only dine 3 or 4 times in its life before turning black and wilting. Most carnivorous plants live in swamps, happily obliging Aaron Ellison to use his homemade kayak to approach them.
Sundews, or plants a lot like sundews, are probably the most primitive or ancient type of carnivorous plant. This sort of pattern of a sticky trap, then a more complicated trap having evolved, has occurred at least 5 or 6 times in all of the plant kingdom. Sundews are the primitive group, followed next in their evolutionary sequence by the Asian pitcher plants, and followed next in the evolutionary sequence by Venus flytraps.
It may be primitive, but this glue trap is highly efficient. Each ball glows in the sun like a dewdrop and acts as a magnet to attract insects. It contains a powerful sticky glue. Any insect that lands is stuck with no chance of escape. The efforts of this fly to escape its trap are in vain. Once immobilized, it will be dissolved by round enzymes along the stem.
Pitcher plants are considered advanced as carnivorous plants go because they have a variety of methods that they use to both attract and trap and digest insects. The pitcher plant has these hairs that point downward so that when the insect tries to crawl back up, it gets caught in these hairs and falls further into the plant. The inside of the pitcher is coated with a very, very fine wax that allows the pitcher plants to act like a sliding board for the insects to slide down into the very bottom where they're captured and digested.
The electron microscope reveals this amazing forest of hair, all pointing in the same direction, stopping any prey from climbing out. Other species have replaced hairs by small tiles in which insects' legs become trapped. Some hairs are even equipped with glue on their tip. Carnivorous plants have evolved to adapt, according to varying sizes and types of prey. There are over 500 varieties of carnivorous plants that live in swamps, but some are not where you'd expect them to be.
Faster than a Venus flytrap, more powerful than the best mousetrap. It's the bladderwort. And if you pull it up, it looks just like any other green limp algae that you would find in the pond anywhere. But put this under a microscope and a whole new world of plant life will become visible.
These carnivorous plants capture zooplankton using a bag-shaped trap, equipped with a valve that closes at a speed of 10 to 15 milliseconds. But unlike above-surface carnivores, they do not have digestive glands. How do they digest living prey? Bladderworts have made a pact with smaller than them, tiny protozoas. It doesn't take long for an army of them to decompose the prey. The bladderwort enables the protozoa to feed on large prey that they would be unable to catch alone. And the protozoa break down essential digestive nutrients for the bladderwort. It's microscopic symbiosis. Once fed, the plant can now grow this magnificent flower.
Plants use energy to build structures. Just like people invest money in businesses, plants invest carbon in structures. We expected that a complicated structure like a carnivorous plant trap, like the trap of a Venus flytrap, would take a lot of carbon to build. To our surprise, the results of our research showed that for a normal leaf, that takes about 1.5 grams of carbon to make every gram of leaf. In contrast, these very elaborate, very complicated carnivorous traps that we had always assumed were very expensive to produce, turn out to be really cheap, on about average 20 to 25% less expensive, less energetically costly to make than are the leaves of a normal plant. If people were designing a Venus flytrap, they would come up with a system of pumps and pulleys and engines that would require a lot of fossil fuels to drive that, as opposed to thinking about how they could just simply take the energy stored in water, squeeze that energy out, and then reuse that energy again from the water to reset the trap. And so plants like Venus flytraps have a lot to teach us. We see a lot of really large carnivorous plants in science fiction movies, but carnivorous plants really couldn't grow that big.
All the big plants, the things like trees, have lots of support structures: bark, wood, trunks. Carnivorous plants are herbs. They don't make wood. So a really, really large carnivorous plant would have so large an energetic demand simply to hold itself up that there wouldn't be enough left for the traps.
If some carnivorous plants have turned their leaves into insect traps, others simply capture water, another way of adapting to the surrounding environment. Tillandsia grows mainly in treetops and lives on raindrops, the secret of its survival. Water is trapped in tiny cups which line the walls of the plant. They act like buckets. This rootless plant can absorb and retain water required for growth. Splashing from leaf to leaf, the water droplets deliver rare minerals the plant needs for growth. Unlike Tillandsia, the hypersensitive leaves of Mimosa pudica will close to protect against weather or herbivorous predators. A single drop of water can trigger this movement. The closure is caused by little red balls that inflate like tiny airbags when the leaf feels a contact. Plant leaves are covered with a network of veins. They have as many different ramification patterns as there are fingerprints in humans. Eleni Cataphori is a leaf specialist.
What we want to understand is whether the environment or the particular conditions have an effect on the architecture of the venation, because we see a variety of plants in the desert or in the Arctic or in wet or dry conditions, and we see a variety of architectures. We want to understand if there is any correlation between the environment where the plant lives and the architecture of the venation.
This tree in the heart of New York's Central Park is a ginkgo. It is amongst the oldest species on Earth.
In evolutionary ancient times, most plants were like ginkgo, very primitive. Today, most of the plants you're gonna see have very complex venation, very sophisticated. And the reason for this is that ginkgos, which used to cover a very big part of the planet, were outcompeted by the more sophisticated plants that can do photosynthesis more efficiently.
To study the evolution of its veins, Eleni damages the ginkgo leaf by piercing a hole in its center. Using ultraviolet light and optical filters, Eleni has developed a method. This liquid is a marker, and by absorbing it, the leaf will gradually reveal its structure.
Ginkgo has a very primitive vein network. It has no loops. When we create an injury, when we punch a hole, the water cannot bypass the injury site, and that part of the leaf will die. Modern plants have evolved loops, and with the help of loops, water can bypass any injury site and eventually fill up the whole leaf. And this is the secret for survival for modern plants when there is damage.
This modern network of veins enables plants to adapt to all conditions with very low energy expenditure.
Leaves and leaf venation might still be evolving, we don't know. Plants are still competing with each other, and maybe in hundreds of millions of years, they will have different and maybe more efficient patterns of leaf veins.
The bodies of plants have evolved through evolution. Without legs, they have succeeded in colonizing all environments through inventive sexuality. Plants have 3 ways of reproducing: sexless by auto-producing young plants, self-fertilization by sex between their own male and female organs, remote sex with pollen, an extraordinary invention that enables them to reproduce without ever meeting a companion. The sperm is protected within a simple capsule that will enable them to travel from flower to flower with the help of an insect, a bird, or a mammal pollinator. If you cannot deliver your own pollen, you have no choice but to trust it to someone else. The plant provides nectar as a reward.
Pollen grains are quite diverse to an extent that you can recognize species based on the morphology of the pollen grain, very much like the fingerprints for human beings. So if you talk about 250,000 species of plants, there are that many, or almost that many number of pollen shapes, if you will, and they can be quite diverse. It's one of the great mysteries of plant biology, why they're so diverse. Some possible explanations would be, in fact, adaptation to slightly different conditions. There's an initial prototype or initial pollen grain morphology that has evolved, and these has then diversified.
Under extreme conditions, pollen can survive several days. It has the power to retain its water content. But just how do they achieve this? Dr. Jacques Dumais has found an explanation by observing the structure of pollen with a scanning electron microscope.
Pollen is an amazing structure. It's a small structure that could dehydrate extremely fast when it's released. And it's in fact quite a feat given their size. Most cells would shrivel and dry out within minutes under most conditions. And what it does to protect itself, it folds on itself, just like origami, and becomes sealed, and therefore can travel a great distance without losing water.
Jacques Dumais continues his investigation of ferns in the large greenhouses located on the rooftops of Harvard Forest, an offshoot of the famous Harvard University. He is particularly interested in sporangia, the reproductive organs of the fern. Using a high-speed camera to film sporangia, at 2,000 frames per second, he has discovered their technique of ejection.
The catapult system is really a great inspiration. In fact, was evolved millions of years before humans ever thought of the catapult. It's evolved in these ferns to release their spores and make sure that they can be dispersed over great distances.
Relying solely on inside forces, this is also the case of the geranium, which expulses its seeds over more than 1 meter, or wild cucumber, which holds the seed-throwing world record at almost 10 meters. To optimize seedlings' chances for survival, seeds need to move away from the parent plant. Too close and competition for light and water could make life difficult for them. Agremonia and burdock thistles have invented Velcro to hike a lift on the back of passing animals. Under the eye of the electron microscope, we can see that each burdock spike has a hook. A hook that enables the seed to cling on to the fur of the animal. Velcro copies this idea, with two bands that grip to each other, one side covered with tiny hooks, the other with small loops. The seed of erodium has a beak and a tail. It will screw into the ground through the movement of its tail that wraps or unwraps according to humidity levels.
Drilling mechanisms were invented by plants a long time ago. There's quite a diversity of mechanisms that are out there, that some of them have been rediscovered by humans, some of them have yet to be rediscovered. The dandelion is using a strategy that guarantees almost certain dispersal. If you're relying on animals to come by or things like that, you're somewhat dependent on your environment. Wind is by and large always present, at least in some amount, and can bring you to great distances if it's strong enough.
To colonize the world like the dandelion, most seeds choose wind, where they use different tricks like a parachute or helicopter blades. This truly is bioengineering. By dispersing in millions, seeds and pollen can accomplish vast distances. To grow and conquer, they must find new and suitable environments, including our cities. They are so good at traveling that 55% of all species found in the northeast of the USA are present in the heart of New York. 60% of the entire flora of Great Britain is found in London. With their ability to infiltrate cracks and their resistance to aggressions, plants are colonizing our cities. Certain invasive plants can come from far, far away.
Invasive plants do not only rely on wind to travel. With the explosion of globalization, they now take aeroplanes and boats to reach the continents they would not ordinarily be able to reach.
The Chinese tree of heaven and the Japanese knotweed have invaded our cities. Professor Florence Piola focuses on the strategies of knotweed to crowd out native plants.
Knotweeds have an extremely rigorous rhizome that grows very fast, several meters a year, and a small fragment of rhizome can relocate a short distance away, giving a new individual plant. Knotweeds are also masters of chemical warfare. They secrete molecules in the soil that poison other plants.
Weakened by toxins, the native plants do not grow as fast as they usually would, and the invasive plant proliferates.
In Europe, the Japanese knotweed plants arrive with a chemical cocktail that European plants ignore. Whereas in Japan, plants that live close to knotweeds have had time to adapt to this chemical cocktail and get on well.
Knotweeds proliferate more in our cities than in their native environment, as they have no natural enemies, and they have even allied with other invaders.
The knotweed has a special relationship with invasive ants that are not originally from Europe. We have found these ants drinking the nectar secreted by the stems, and we believe that the ants, in turn, keep the knotweed free of pests.
The knotweed is not the only undesirable invasive plant. The list of concrete conquerors is long. Turkestan goosefoot, South African senecio, Chinese tree of heaven, etc. Some of them become giants, as is the case of the Nagunda maple and the tree of heaven. trees of heaven can reach nearly 30 meters high, with branches of 160 meters wide. Perhaps what is most remarkable is their huge variety of chemical molecules, including herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, bactericides, and virucides.
These are invasive and harmful plants, but who isn't seduced by their beauty? The knotweed has become an ornamental plant.
To achieve their goals, invasive plants know how to seduce us. Perhaps all plants manipulate us with their exquisiteness. Citizens are so lacking in greenery that their sheer presence has become vital. Plants can count on our partnership to break into our cities. Armies of green warrior movements have slowly appeared in a fight to make cities more vegetal. They claim the right to a greener city. Armed with seed grenades and hose, they want the concrete to bloom and billboards and cars to go green, literally. While many plants thrive well on walls and defy concrete, plants have not yet won the battle to live permanently on our asphalt. But the idea germinates amongst many visionaries.
We started with the Champs-Élysées, today we're in Lyon. Tomorrow we continue with Sao Paulo, New York, Berlin and other cities. It's about making this a poetic collage, while being impetuous, which speaks of silence, of nature, and of the rustle of the wind, all set in urban places where the noise of cars is omnipresent. It's along pavements, squares, and in the heart of cities, in public spaces that no longer belong to the public. And that's why it touches the soul, like some kind of a revelation. Here is the Bellecour Square of Lyon, the largest pedestrian square in Europe. The idea here is to have 150 varieties of plants that evoke biodiversity.
The race against time to vegetate the immense square will last 3 days and 2 nights.
Bringing nature into the city as we do is totally absurd, but it's a dream, a childhood dream where you go to bed at night surrounded by the sound of traffic and you wake up in the morning in the fields. It could be the Champs-Élysées, Bellecour, Times Square in New York. The stronger the emotion, the more absurd it is, the more it feels right.
I think what people like about this is it's really a very collagic effect. It's collage. And the idea of collage is to shock through opposition. And it's what I believe we've done on the High Line, where one's reception, one's experience and reception of nature in terms of weather, light, seasons, time, designed nature and undesigned nature. I think people really like that sense of time. That's what wild nature, in a sense, brings to people. A sense of time, a sense of season, a sense of new birth and new life in the spring and death in the winter. You don't really get that if you only think of parks and gardens in a traditional sense.
Today's city dwellers seek out wild urban nature settings. They want this comeback of natural vegetation. They enjoy having their heads in the greens with their feet on the tarmac. Even if there's no more room to create new parks and public gardens, plants can rely on the imagination of architects and botanists to help them conquer the walls and rooftops of all kinds of buildings.
"20 years ago, I imagined working in the city with green walls and vertical gardens. It was a way for me to introduce living matter into the city. I wanted to push this idea a lot further, to work with everything living and revegetate the city. People are unhappy in our cities, made of concrete and artificial materials. To find what we miss the most, we have to take root in the city, like plants do. Not a vegetal city that is simply decorative, but a vegetal city where plants play a far more important role than a simple aesthetic one. Plants play an important role in cleaning the air so we can breathe easy in the city."
Green walls are like mini depolluting factories, using basic elements: air, water, plants, and earth with bacteria. Exhaust fumes are captured by plants, and these pollutants are decomposed by bacteria that feed on them. The extraordinary abilities of plants are their best assets, and this imposes them on our walls. The Lords of Green also inspire Luke Schweten for tomorrow's means of transport.
A car can also be directly inspired by something that has grown from nature. Here is a knot that looks like growing tree branches that have spread in the curves and that form the rigidity of the structure. I can also draw inspiration from a leaf that curls and creates a dynamic that is very specific to everything that nature produces.
If Luke Schweten's bio-vegetal vehicles are not quite ready for tomorrow, an American engineer is vegetalizing buses in New York.
This is bus routes. The project is proposing to install a green roof on top of city buses to increase the amount of green space in the cities. Green roofs, in general, plants, they capture CO2 and provide us with oxygen. They also do capture rainwater. They insulate the buildings where the plants are. They also lower the urban heat island effect.
The plants used by Marco Castrocosio are essentially sedums, well known for their endurance to drought. They are rarely thirsty. They store water in their globular leaves. It was only natural for Marco Castrocosio to establish his headquarters in his biobus.
This is some of the buses, what they may look like. If we go closer, we can see how they could be attached. Could have the layers, the moisture, the drainage on the plant layer. This is another version, which would be like a suspended system. It's like a hammock, which is kind of similar to what the biobus has right now. This is the vines. This is the lightest weight system. The plants are growing on the side, and the vines start covering the roof in the middle. I would love to see the roofs of every city bus in New York to be covered with plants. So it would be nice to be on a bridge and see all these buses passing by, and you could recognize them by, oh, there goes the lavender bus, or there goes the basil bus.
All plants that grow absorb CO2. This is totally harmonious with our activities. Plant matter was the building material from the beginning. It's only recently that we thought we could go further and build with completely artificial materials. This is a bamboo house that grew in just 3 months. This is obviously a short period, and it is an immense advantage over trees. Bamboo has a total lifetime of 30 years, which is that of a family. of one generation. It will be a nice way to inhabit growing, living structures and totally adapted to the lifespan of a generation.
The secrets of bamboo are hidden beneath its microscopic structure, in the honeycomb-type cells that ensure rigidity. Inside each cell, spring-shaped fibers make up the backbone of the plant, giving bamboo such remarkable strength. Luc Schuiten is looking to the future, but he has no doubt that plants, through millions of years of evolution, have many answers to our problems. One of his dreams is of a green vegetal city where the lotus plant is used as a key building material, a plant of great interest to the building industry.
The vision of Luc Schuiten to use lotus as roof or lotus plants as walls for housing is extremely fascinating. Still, you can learn a lot from that, and that is what the lotusan can do. You can have the self-cleaning effect on a wall.
The results are highly convincing.
A dirty wall without a lotusan will have this effect on water. The water runs down the wall, but it takes no dirt with it. Now, if you do the same with the lotusan color, again, there's a lot of dirt, but only before the rain. Once the rain droplets go on, they pick up the dirt.
What is the secret of the lotus effect? To understand, place a leaf sample in an electron microscope and magnify several thousand times. The leaf surface of the lotus reveals thousands of peaks, a surface on which water droplets bounce off without being able to spread. The lotus, in a self-cleaning process, seeks to protect itself against microbial colonization. For Luc Schuiten, reality has already caught up with utopia. He has imagined a city where humans are not afraid to breathe in deeply. A sustainable city where humans are nature's friend.
I believe there's a true incentive to return to the living, because it's 100% sustainable. Life is what we are, by definition. The proximity of organisms that grow, that are alive, is certainly something that very closely resembles our own lives.
Plants have sensory capacities that are far more sophisticated than we once imagined. Plants move, smell, taste, listen, memorize. Deprived of a nervous system, they are somehow capable of recognizing their family, sending out an alarm signal, and even communicating. Plants are everything but silent. In the 1960s, Cleve Baxter, a trained member of the CIA interrogation team, made a revelation that marked its era. Plants, he affirmed, are capable of communicating between each other. Using a lie detector, He claimed to have succeeded in capturing their thoughts, emotions, and even their telepathic powers.
Attached to delicate electronic instruments, a cabbage plant registers annoyance to the exhaling of tobacco smoke on its leaf surfaces. A scene familiar in any kitchen takes on special importance in this experiment. In some mysterious way, the plant which is attached to the instrument is able to feel the mutilation of its comrade.
Baxter was not a scientist, and he did a lot of experiments, but claiming that he was able to detect telepathy and a big amount of strange phenomena in plants. But in the last 40 years, many scientists tried to repeat the experiment without success. So essentially in science, if you cannot repeat an experiment, this means that this experiment is wrong.
The authors rarely did experiments in the way a scientist would do them, so most scientists dismissed it as not very scientific.
The Secret Life of Plants was looking at plant social life in a very New Agey kind of way.
Stefano Mancuso is not a survivor from the New Age. A pioneer in neurobiological research on plants, he is convinced that plants are great communicators. At the University of Florence in Italy, he is trying to reveal what plants are hiding from us. Stefano Mancuso's first trial is with a bean plant. He has grown them under various conditions. In the dark, at different lighting or humidity levels, at varied temperatures, even by modifying the magnetic field that surrounds it. He wants to find out how the bean plants always find the support stick.
We did some 100 different experiments, and all the times the plants were able to find the supports. And so now that we are, the idea is that there is some kind of unknown way that the plants use to sense the environment.
Skeptical scientists have objected, declaring that the plant is performing a simple mechanical movement and that the plant haphazardly found the nearby support stick. In reply to the critics, Stefano Mancuso placed two plants, one on each side of the stick. As he expected, both plants grew towards the support stick.
Our science is it's a science made by animals, for animals. Because we are animals, we are unable normally to feel that plants are intelligent and sensitive organisms.
Dare we evoke a form of plant brain?
Intelligence and sensitivity is not something that it's linked to a brain. The brain in itself, it's a stupid organ. It's just an amount of cells that we have here and every animal have. But if you look at the single cells, they are cells. There is nothing mysterious or supernatural about the cells of our brains. They are just a specific kind of cells called neurons. But you don't need neurons to make this stuff. You can have all other kind of cells having the same function. So it means transmitting signals from one cell to the other.
The tremendous root network that plants possess makes a striking parallel with our highly complex brain circuits. Charles Darwin was one of the first to probe the underground life of plants. He was convinced that plants have command centers at the tip of their roots, known as the apex. Researcher at the University of Bonn in Germany, Dr. František Belusko works on apex neurobiology.
All the root apices, they are coordinated in their activities and growths, and they resemble some swarms, for example, insect swarms or birds. Somehow there is some communication. We still don't understand how it is going on, but they are coordinated and behave as one swarm.
František Beluska's research has revealed that within the apex, plants have cells that are very similar to those found in animal muscle cells. The roots are capable of exploring the soil with extraordinary precision, and plants seem to know when to form their flowers or drop their leaves. Could there really be, as Charles Darwin once thought, a single and unique command post?
So there is no central organizer, and that's why these networks are not vulnerable to some stress situations. These networks can self-organize very effectively, and they can survive any bad stress situation. The network resembles very closely the internet network, so one could call it root wide web.
A root wide web, root cells that function independently but in coordination with others.
This is the same kind of signal we can record in the animal brain.
Really, these networks are also used to exchange information, not just to provide water or nutrition. We have still no idea how complex the communication there is.
Today, we are aware that plants have much to talk about, but we know little or nothing of it. The secret life of plants is slowly unveiled through the research of a few tenacious scientists. Canadian biologist Susan Dudley and her team have found that when the root of the Impatiens pallida touches the root of a plant from another family, the impatiens increases its water and light consumption and creates larger leaves.
Okay, 20.1 square centimeters. It's a good-sized leaf. These plants are big. These plants actively know that they have neighbors and actively respond to the presence of neighbors. And each and every leaf, in fact, positions itself to avoid getting shaded by neighboring leaves, even within the same plant.
But the impatiens' reaction is totally different when its roots come across a family member.
We can say that plants know who members of the same family are, and that's important information for them to know. Because members of the same family share genes, and so if you're nice to a member of the same family, if you compete less with it, or even actively share with it, then your genes are being passed on through that family member.
Using such tactile root recognition, the plant can advantage its family members. This reveals that plants, in their own way, are capable of altruism. Just as amazing, plants are able to communicate between themselves other than by touch, as Dr. Stefano Mancuso demonstrates. Our Italian scientist has isolated 3 groups of corn plants. There is no root contact between them. He will then deprive oxygen to one of the groups.
After 5 minutes from the start of the lack of oxygen, we had this group of plants emitting an SOS signal to warn the surrounding plant that there is something that is going wrong with oxygen. In this case, we have a group of plants that are emitting a message that it's, in few words, pay attention, there is no more oxygen around. And the other group of plants are receiving this message, and according they are able to prepare themselves to a future lack of oxygen. Here we have the plants that are without any change in the oxygen and that are not receiving any message. Here we have the plants in red that are producing a gene because they are stressed by the lack of oxygen, and they are producing also a message, and the message is taken by the blue plants. They have no problem with the oxygen, but they are all the same producing the gene because they are receiving the message. So definitively there is a communication between these two groups of plants.
Plants can send and receive messages, but how do they do it?
They are really speaking each other. It's not a kind of language like our language. It's not based on words, but it's based on chemical molecules. Plants are able to produce many thousands of chemical molecules. Each single molecule means something. So when this group of plants are producing specific molecules and this other group of plants are detecting this molecule, this means that there is something wrong.
Plants have invented alarm signals to warn their neighbors of an imminent danger. They also practice the art of chemical self-defense. This strange landscape is that of the stinging nettle, where a cocktail of molecules, fungicides, and insecticides contain a well-known irritating resin. Hidden beneath their skin are numerous molecules that scientists are only beginning to recognize. On the tomato leaf, these mushroom-looking stems are topped by 4 cells that contain a repulsive resin that will be released when under attack by a pest. And that's not all. Plants have the amazing ability to release chemical signals that will attract the enemies of their voracious predators. This is the case of corn when it is attacked by the Spodoptera, a small caterpillar that has a strong appetite for its leaves.
These herbivorous insects do enormous damage and it costs the American farmers, but also European farmers, millions of dollars or euros.
To win any battle, it's an advantage to have allies. The Campholetus sonorensis female is the natural enemy of the Spodoptera caterpillar. But just how does this parasite wasp detect such a tiny caterpillar in a giant cornfield?
What we were initially thinking is that they would respond to the feces of these caterpillars or perhaps the body odors of the caterpillars themselves. Feces in our minds is something that is very smelly, and that would be a very reliable source of signals that these wasps could use. But then we were studying this in more detail and we found that the plants that had been attacked by these caterpillars were much more attractive than feces or the caterpillars themselves. And that's when we started focusing on the signals that the plants produce.
To his surprise, Ted Turlings found that the damaged corn leaf releases a particularly odorous molecule, a specific SOS signal that attracts the caterpillar's enemies. This indicator is like a GPS location signal for wasps, who can then target the tiny invisible caterpillar in the heart of the immense cornfield.
So that was, of course, a very exciting moment because we started realizing the plant is doing something to get the enemies of their enemies come and kill the caterpillars. Plants do not communicate like you and I do that, but they transmit information to other organisms, like these parasitic wasps, through odors.
One single caterpillar munching on a corn leaf releases the odors that attract the wasps. That's what this olfactometer reveals. But the alarm signal is not immediately released. Several hours will have passed between the first caterpillar bite and the liberation of volatile substances. The plant will then produce odors that will soon be emitted by all of its leaves.
The feeding by the caterpillar is not really the same as if you would damage a leaf yourself. So you know if you damage a leaf, you can smell that there's a volatile coming off, so there's an odor coming off. But in the case of caterpillar feeding, they actually have something in their spit that the plant recognizes, and the plants start then producing a different odor that they produce from all the leaves, also the leaves that are not damaged, and that results in a specific signal that alerts these parasitic wasps.
These odors are produced to attract the enemies of their enemies. Corn calls upon an insect to do its dirty work.
This is the secret route of evolution. Plants have no way to move, no way to physically directly defend themselves, start fighting with their enemies, and eventually this results in some sort of communication between plant and insect.
Even more astounding, the intensity of the signal varies with the age of the plant.
One caterpillar can in fact kill a small plant. And we find also indeed that the smaller plants send off much stronger signals, many more of these compounds from these odors than the older plants.
But the caterpillar has adopted a new tactic. To trick the enemy, it has changed its feeding times.
The odors are not produced at night, or at least in much smaller quantities, because photosynthesis is necessary, and for photosynthesis you need light.
The corn plant has forced the caterpillars to adopt a new strategy. To survive, they must devour the corn leaves at night. Underground, another species has started an assault on the corn's roots. Diabrotica, the cornworm, is in full-fledged destruction mode.
They work their way inside the root, where they're well protected, and then they work their way up all the way to the top of the roots, causing the root to completely be destroyed, also making sure that the plant cannot take up water anymore. The stability of the plant is lost, and in many cases the plant will fall over and there's no corn produced.
The team of scientists want to find out if the corn roots can also send underground warning signals to attract other natural enemies of the Diabrotica worm. Nematodes barely visible to the naked eye. Will the nematodes be guided by the plant in order to localize the Diabrotica worm and eliminate it?
We have released nematodes at about half a meter away from the roots, and they are later, within a day, found near those roots and killing these insects. And for a nematode, which is less than a millimeter long, that's an enormous distance. So that will be 500 times their body length. Most likely all plants can communicate. And the more and more we study this, the more and more we realize that there are plenty of other things to be discovered that we cannot see, but their plants are doing to defend themselves.
If plants have to watch their backs, they must also think ahead about their reproduction. And again, chemical signals play a key role. This orchid has adopted qualities from the animal kingdom to resemble and smell just like an insect. The flower is so similar to a female wasp that males are instantly attracted and appear to prefer the plant.
Over evolutionary time, any mutation that arose in the plant that caused the flower to resemble an insect a little more was retained, and flowers that didn't look so much like an insect didn't make a living, didn't reproduce, and we wind up with a flower that looks ever more like an insect.
As surprising as it may seem, the orchid releases chemical signals very similar to the female wasp's sexual pheromones. The male is fooled by both the plant's odor and visual strategies. For the flower, the chances of insemination increase. In reward, the wasp will leave with more pollen.
The same signals that insects use to communicate with each other for sex are biochemically very similar to some of the signals plants are using to talk to each other, and biochemically very similar to hormones that we have in our body for signaling as well. Life has evolved using a common set of signals, and communication between different organisms often involves signal stealing, the ability to take your signals and use them in my life in a way that benefits me.
Plants are not only capable of releasing pleasant or unpleasant odors, they can smell them too. How can plants perceive the chemical molecules that are sent to them? This is the key question entomologist Consuela de Moraes has been asking. Her speciality? Cuscuda, a vampire plant that particularly parasites tomato plants.
They have a very small seed, and they only have the resources that are on those seeds to grow and find a host plant. So once they emerge from the ground, if they don't find a host, they will die. What we found is that plants perceive the odors of other plants, and what we believe it's happening is that they have receptors. I think from the tomato plant, it's just a byproduct of their physiology, and attracting the cuscuta is just happening, like we are producing a smell that attracts mosquitoes, that we're not intended to do it, but we're doing it.
Every human being has a specific odor. Plants do too. The electron microscope unveils the odorous glands of the tomato plant leaf. Numerous on the leaves of tomato or cannabis plants, they liberate intense odors. Each plant has a specific olfactory signature expressed by the morphology of its odorous glands. And the powerful perfume of lavender is explained by its large olfactory pockets. The electron microscope reveals countless release glands, but plants also have many invisible receptors.
They have, in my view, an incredible sense. They really can sniff. One thing that we were amazed to see is that the cuscuta have this ability also to perceive, a healthy plant versus a sick plant. I think it's possible that it is some of the receptors that we see in animal system, insect systems, could be some similarities. Not the same, but I think it's possible that there are some similarities.
Unfortunately, our sense of smell is of no use to decrypt the chemical messages sent by plants. We are unable to crack their code. But scientists are never defeated.
Everything we know about this has been studied in the laboratory. It's extremely difficult to get a picture of that rainbow of chemical words in the field because we really don't have the instruments necessary to collect and analyze them.
If we are to master the invisible conversations of plant life, we will have to learn to translate their chemical vocabulary into words.
The device we're devising is rather like a translator. It takes the language of the plant, which is all odors, and turns it into something we can see, hear, or feel, so that the plant can tell us or report to us what's happening to it.
A key word that often appears in the plant language is methyl jasmonate, a molecule that harbors the smell of the jasmine flower. Highly appreciated by humans, it is frequently used in the perfume industry.
Almost all plants emit some methyl jasmonate when they're attacked by insects. So that appears to be a word that occurs in all languages. But the devil is in the details. All the other molecules mixed in with it can differ from plant to plant, and that's where the language gets complicated.
Plants have a slower life rhythm than humans. Some are capable of living several thousand years, but they cannot run away from danger. In response, they have developed remarkable ways to detect problems or swiftly react to the aggression of an insect. It's a question of survival.
If we count the number of protein receptors plants have for smelling and tasting their environment, they have many, many, many more than a human does. Even a simple plant has at least 600 different kinds of receptors for detecting odors and tastes in the environment. In contrast, humans have fewer than 20.
Plants are furnished with a multitude of strange stalks and hairs that serve as receptors and protection against insects. Their vast diversity is the secret to evolutionary adaptation against the many threats. In order to compensate our lack of sensory receptors, Jack Schultz is working on a prototype of an artificial nose, a highly sensitive plaque that he hopes will enable us to improve our comprehension of the chemical conversations of plants.
Well, we created this chip, or this sensing device, to be able to ask plants what they're saying outdoors in open air for the first time. Everything we know about how plants communicate is based on work done in laboratories under glassware. No one has yet isolated and measured and mapped those signals and those conversations outdoors, and we plan to be the first people to do that with this device. The interaction between insects and plants we describe as a war all the time, and that war is chemical. And those chemicals are invisible. So it's very true to say that there is chemical warfare and invisible communication going on all around us all the time.
If plants have so many receptors, are they conscious that the person taking care of them is their best friend?
Can the plants in the home recognize you? I suppose they might, but certainly they are plants in your home are capable of identifying your odor.
Plants are capable of smelling our odors, but can they hear us? Plants are, it seems, receptive to music. The first experiments, held 40 years ago, said that plants were sensitive to classical music, but did not like artificial or electronic music like rock or blues. In the heart of Tuscany in Italy, a rather surprising scientific experiment has been undertaken by Dr. Stefano Mancuso over the past 7 years. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the music of Mozart is played to the vines.
What we saw immediately after some few weeks of times was that the plants with the music were much bigger and much productive. But at that time, we didn't know if it was just the effect of music or the effect of soils or the climate or whatever. And so we decided to move on a larger scale experiment, moving from just one loudspeaker to 80 speakers in a single vineyard.
Dr. Mancuso has revealed some rather surprising results.
The number of insect attacks was really dramatically decreasing until almost nothing, almost zero. The sounds was able to make a kind of confusion in the insects during the mating process. So they were unable to find the mate, and so they were unable to reproduce.
After several years spent playing Mozart to the vineyard, Stefano Mancuso is formal. The grapes on those land areas ripen 10 to 15 days before normal harvest dates. Plants are highly sensitive to sound. But just how do they hear them?
Plants have no ears, but the plants are completely covered by mechanosensitive channels. I would say small sensors that are activated by vibrations. Plants are probably much more sensitive than us in detecting sounds.
An in-depth examination by electron microscope reveals that the leaves and the tendrils of the vines are covered by sensors that could well be their ears. Stefano Mancuso has discovered which frequencies the vines appreciate the most and subtly inserted them in Mozart's orchestrations.
We found that there are a range of frequencies in the low part of the spectrum, around 100, between 100 and 1000 hertz. There are many frequencies that we could say plants like.
But just what good does it do to the plant to detect such sound vibrations?
We are not sure about what actually the plants do with this information, but we are quite sure that plants are able to use the information coming from the sounds in the soil, for example, to detect the quality of the soils, the amount of water in the soils, the presence of obstacles in the soil. So they are in some way using information coming from sounds to have an idea of the space around them.
Our image of the plant, stupid and inert, is to be reconsidered, and plants certainly haven't finished surprising us. For the first time ever, Stefano Mancuso has discovered that plants also emit sounds. Yes, they talk. Of weak intensity, these little clicking sounds are possibly the first to be recorded of corn roots, detected by a laser. If they can talk, do they have a language? Can they memorize a vocabulary? Are they equipped with a memory?
Okay, allora. Tieni questa. Stay one. Memory is something that has been heavily underestimated in plants.
These plants are separated into two groups. During 2 weeks, Stefano Mancuso injected small quantities of zinc into one of the two groups. Zinc is a heavy metal dangerous to the plant. On the 15th day, he injected high doses of zinc to both groups. The plants that had previously received the weak doses of zinc better survived under this shock treatment.
This means that plants are able to solve a problem, to learn how to solve a problem, and the next time that they are presented with the same problem, they are able to solve it better. It's a form of memory.
Interpreting visual signals released by plants that could be beneficial to humankind is the work of botanist Ida Godel. She has developed the art of predicting the weather forecast by closely observing the behavior of plants in the Swiss Alps. which anticipate from several hours to several days. What can Alchemilla tell us about tomorrow's weather?
This droplet of water is always found inside the plant. And it's not a dewdrop. It's something that the plant produces. It does this all the time, non-stop. The only time it doesn't make droplets is when it's going to rain.
Forecasting the weather by observing plants requires patience and immense observation. Ida Godel's father was a horticulturist, and she spent her childhood carefully observing plant life with him.
Each time I had a question concerning a plant, to know where it came from, what it was doing here, Father nearly always had the right answer. The oxeye daisy is the big sister of the common daisy. It's a great deal heavier, so it needs a lot more time to open and close. It's far slower in its forecasts.
With its lunar structure on the tip of its stem, the flower is composed of white petals that will slowly close upon nightfall, but also to protect itself in case of bad weather.
You have to watch them every day and have a different approach. All plants react. Be they outside in the garden or inside your house, they react in exactly the same way. A cactus in your apartment can tell you the weather forecast.
Weather-sensitive plants are numerous. Daisies, dandelions, tulips, roses, thistles, geraniums, but also pines, beech, oaks, or even grasses, clovers, lily pads, lettuces, even onion skins. It's by observing these plants that Ida Godel predicted the heat wave that hit Europe in the summer of 2003.
I would say it's a very precise science. The plant is never wrong. It's a question of survival. The only person that could make a mistake is me in its interpretation.
If our ancestors were able to read the weather forecast through plant behavior, perhaps tomorrow plants could become excellent sentinels in detecting dangerous substances. Dr. Jack Schultz is trying to create plants that will become our allies. He hopes they will react in a specific way under certain situations.
Creating plants that report danger is something we call sentinel plants. We would create a sentinel plant that changes color in response to something it detects, sits on your desk or in the corner of the room, and acts as a canary in the mine. Changes color, speaks up, if you will, when it detects whatever you would like it to tell you about. We can use genetic engineering to create plants now that respond very quickly by changing color, losing their greenness, producing more volatiles, and if we were able to do that, we could place plants in locations where they could very quickly report the presence of something we wanted to know about, for example, chemical weapons.
Pour des raisons de sûreté, de nombreux passagers ne peuvent pas laisser leurs bagages sans surveillance.
Placed in strategic locations such as airports, plants could become very useful in detecting drugs, chemical products, and explosives. Highly toxic to humankind, The chemical composition of TNT is actually very good for plants. TNT is an excellent fertilizer due to its high levels of nitrogen.
Plants grow really, really well on TNT-contaminated soils. In a mine field, each mine has explosives in it, and those explosives slowly leak out of the mine, creating a circle of fertilized soil where plants grow really well. If we were to sow a field, imagine in a desert in Iraq or something, with a plant that grows quickly, you would expect to see nice green patches grow over each of the landmines.
Rather than seeking to enslave plants, to make the most of them, perhaps we could also attempt to communicate with them in a more poetic manner.
Plants sense our energetic aura, our electrostatic energy, and through a specific kind of artistic technology, we manage to perceive what the plant is feeling.
This interactive garden is composed of genuine musical plants that react to our contact, a vegetal language generated by touch. When visitors caress them or brush up against them, the plants will sing. It is not the voice of the plant, but a sound chosen by the artists, set off by the visitor.
We wanted to give plants a voice. When you look at a plant, it doesn't give us the impression that they can speak. They seem so inert and silent. We gave them a whole new universe of sound from nature, forests, animals, or insects. In our exhibition, they're heard in an abstract dimension. When we work with the invisible, we're interested in finding new boundaries, to sketch the imperceptible, suggest it and make it sensitive. It's not oral communication. It's not a dialogue, but an exchange of sensations. If the plant dies, it ceases to sing.
We are unable to comprehend the complex language of plants, but our scientists are well aware that plants do communicate, be it through the ground or thin air, using hundreds of chemical signals. They can talk to each other and even to other animals. Perhaps they are even trying to communicate with us.
It's impossible for us to imagine how a plant could sense.
If we can crack the code of plant language, then plants will be speaking to us all the time.
Should we manage to pierce their secret language, we may be surprised at what they have to say. Could it be that they are manipulating our very brains to reach their goals? Perhaps they influence us in the same way they influence insects. Corn may well be manipulating our taste buds, similar to the way it guides the parasitic wasp towards the Spodoptera caterpillar. And who knows if the world of green will not one day turn against humans, considered in turn as ravagers. Plants feed on light. They are masters of photosynthesis. Some have been rooted into the earth since almost 5,000 years. Others have already visited outer space. They purify our water and our air. They may hide the secret to immortality and hold many world records. Some animals even imitate them. Plants are everything but powerless. Humans are gifted with intelligence and creativity. We are capable of moving, of remembering, of feeling. we are also persuaded that we are omnipotent. Yet the observation of the world of plants should incite more humility, as the genome of a simple grain of rice contains twice as many genes as that of a human. Humans are still struggling to produce efficient solar energy. Our green neighbors have been mastering this technique since way before we appeared on Earth. Mysterious powers are at play, and plants are hiding their secrets. They transform sunlight into sugar molecules, a ready-to-use form of energy. Scientists call this photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is the key player in photosynthesis. It allows the plant to absorb energy from light, the first step in converting energy from sunlight into a chemical form. The pigment absorbs red and blue wavelengths of the spectrum. Green light is less readily absorbed, giving the leaves or algae their overall general color. Algae are the very first vegetal organisms to have appeared on Earth. They can be found in all aquatic environments. Enlarged by electron microscopy, they look very similar to jewelry. They are diatoms, microalgae. With over 100,000 species known to date, diatoms represent the most important group of algae in the vegetal plankton world, at the base of the aquatic food chain. In spite of their minute size, they possess genuine machinery for photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis is one of the most incredibly sophisticated, regulated biological machines that we know about.
Without the magic of photosynthesis, there would be no oxygen in the atmosphere. Life would be rare.
Planet Earth is receiving enough solar energy per hour to power all of mankind's energy requirements for an entire year.
1 hour of sun for an entire year of energy. A humiliation to humankind still struggling to find efficient ways of capturing sunlight to produce energy.
Plants have had 3.5 billion years to work out how to turn the energy from sunlight into food. They're pretty good at it. And how they do this is what we've found to be quite mysterious.
The sun's light is so powerful that plants have developed stop and start security mechanisms to avoid overheating.
The capture of this energy is so efficient that it needs to be highly regulated because it can provide too much energy to the other parts of the plant. So some of that energy needs to be dissipated when the sun's bright. And that happens by turning on safety valves. These safety valves take the excess energy and dump it as harmless heat rather than destroying the plant.
It is these tiny pores called stomata that regulate the gaseous and energetic exchanges in plants during photosynthesis. Plants undergo complex energy transfers at unbelievable speeds.
The capture of sunlight and moving through space happens incredibly fast. We can't even imagine this in our normal lives as femtoseconds, it's called, 10 to the minus 15 of a second.
A femtosecond is to a second what a second is to approximately 31.7 million years. A staggering rapidity for these plants whose metabolism seems so slow. Gregory Scholz discovered that plants use quantum physics in order to optimize photosynthesis. The sun's energy particles absorbed by the plant can be found in 2 different locations at precisely the same time.
Can actually take 2 pathways or 3 pathways simultaneously. It was unimaginable just a few years ago that this could happen in something that just grows outside.
tireless quest for light may well be the reason for the immense global surface deployed by plants. While the skin of a human being covers an average of 2 square meters, scientists estimate that the leaves of a tree 15 meters high covers a surface area of 200 hectares, which is roughly the size of Monaco. The immense surface of leaves optimize photosynthesis. For each ton of vegetal biomass produced, nearly 1.4 tons of oxygen is added to the atmosphere, and 1.8 tons of carbon dioxide is eliminated. Plants have the power to absorb carbon dioxide, a greenhouse effect gas that participates in global warming, and as a byproduct, they release oxygen. Plants have the power to clean the planet. During photosynthesis, plants release oxygen from their roots. These attract partners that are essential to plants, countless bacteria that will devour the polluting organic matter. In 1974, a revolutionary and natural wastewater treatment system was installed at the NASA Stennis Space Center to filter the wastewater of both homes and laboratories.
We install plants, water hyacinths, floating tropical and semi-tropical water hyacinths with a beautiful flower, to treat all the waste at this large NASA facility, which houses about 5,000 or 6,000 people.
The research aimed to demonstrate the capacity of plants to transform dirty water into food, oxygen, and water. And this 1.2 hectare lagoon has largely met the wastewater elimination requirements set out by NASA. Today, hidden beneath its leaves are alligators and fish. And the life of the lagoon is humming with birds and insects, as in a natural environment. The system has functioned for over 40 years. Maintenance is limited to evacuating the large quantity of hyacinths once a year. The plants have magnificently adapted to this environment.
These water hyacinths, if you take them out of a river or the natural environment, they will have a large root system because they are seeking the nutrients and minerals they need. But once we put them in where we have domestic sewage mixed with them, they have all the nutrients they need, and you can see here they're a small root system because they don't need this massive root system that you will see if you pull this out of the river.
Biological stations using lagoon water hyacinths represent only 5% of installation costs and 10% of maintenance costs of industrial wastewater treatment stations. If these plants are so far ahead of us when it comes to depollution, why are today's engineers not inspired?
One of the reasons it has been slow to be implemented is because it is simple, and most civil engineers that design wastewater treatment systems do not understand how plants have such magic and power.
Plants are not only capable of cleaning wastewater. In addition, they are incredible at cleaning and filtering air, each species having its own specialty.
Large trees are cleaning factors. The more large trees you have, the cleaner your air is going to be.
Bill Wolverton affirms that plants also give excellent results in the elimination of radioactive elements like cesium-130, strontium-90, and cobalt found in contaminated soils.
In Japan, where they've had this serious problem, over the years they found that sunflowers are very effective. So they're using sunflower plants now to remove soil from their fields near this horrible accident, nuclear power plant failure. And it may take some time.
If plants have become our allies in depolluting the air and soil, they equally contribute to purifying the air of our interiors. To test the capacity of plants to produce fresh air under shelter, NASA led the biohome experiment, an airtight building built of completely synthetic materials. Before introducing the plants, the men inside the structure, devoid of plants, had stinging eyes, sore throats, and respiratory difficulties. After introducing plants covering half of the surface inside the home, the symptoms disappeared in just a few days.
If you're going to live in a permanent, tightly sealed building, whether it's on Earth or in outer space, you're going to have a bioregenerative process, plants and their root microbes. If you can't build a tightly sealed, energy-efficient building with plants and maintain healthy air in it, that's step number one before you try to build a more complicated system on the moon where you have to create all of the oxygen.
If fresh air is essential for astronauts, it is just as essential to Earthlings.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has identified indoor air pollution as one of the most serious health problems facing the Americans.
Bill Wolverton encourages the use of plants in order to grow fresh air. For him, all modern homes are concerned, as they are full of volatile and invisible chemical products. Before the 20th century, chemical products were virtually unheard of. Today, we use more than 80,000, and they have invaded our everyday lives.
Practically everything in your home is made of synthetic materials. That is, chemicals, the TVs, your computers, the paint, the paneling. With our modern buildings with synthetic materials, when we seal them up to make them energy efficient, we seal up hundreds of nasty chemicals that cause health problems.
In order to fight against energy loss, the tendency is to increase the construction of airtight buildings.
How do you build such a tightly sealed, energy-efficient building and maintain healthy air? And the answer is plants. The whole key is to educate the world of how nature can be used to clean our environment and make it a healthy environment, and nature has the answer. If we will only look to nature and work with nature, we can get out of this mess that we're in. But are we too arrogant to do it?
Capable of helping us purify our environment, plants are also world champions of sustainable development. By fabricating wood, plants create unbelievable quantities of primary materials. Researchers estimate that 10 billion tons of wood are created each year by Mother Nature. But where does it all come from?
99% of this weight is made of air, is made of water, and made of sun energy. All these elements are barely or absolutely invisible. It makes wood with cellulose and lignin, and this is a substance similar to concrete mixed with armed iron. But the difference is, instead of taking iron from the mineral earth, making cement with very much fossil energy, it needs 150 degrees to make cement. The tree makes its wood with invisible elements and builds wood which is as strong as reinforced concrete.
Perhaps one of the most mysterious forces used by nature is the gravitational influence of the moon on vegetal life. It has been proven that the full moon has an incidence on the growth of plants or the conservation of wood used in the building industry.
The gravitational changes through a day mean just a change of the weight of the tree of not more than 8 grams. We have analyzed the changes of wood properties according to the felling date of many trees, 600 trees, and observed changes in drying behavior of the wood, changes in the density of the wood after drying process, and all these changes, also the resistance to compression, are very significant, linked to lunar rhythms. There is no life without rhythms. Every life expression is linked to the rhythms. And these rhythms provoke something like a heartbeat in the plants.
Face to face with seasonal variations, plants cannot wrap themselves in a coat or discard it. They have to face the elements. Temperatures can vary from -30 to +40 degrees Celsius, and they are neither hot nor cold about it. Plants orient themselves depending on the available light. They grow straight up against gravitational forces. Perpendicular to their trunks, branches grow horizontally, holding their weight in suspension. What is the secret of this miracle?
For me personally, after all these years, I have no clear answer how it is possible. It's really a question. Do we have only gravity as a factor? They are not only powerful against known forces, but I have the impression that they work with other types of forces.
Just what forces is Ernst Zürcher referring to? Could it be that invisible and unidentified forces are hidden within our galaxy?
3, 2, 1, mark. GLS says go for auto sequence start.
The Atlantis STS-135 space mission transports several hundred rather special passengers. They are green. They are not aliens, but plants destined to play an essential role in the conquest of space. NASA's long-term goal is to reproduce the complex ecosystem of planet Earth in order to establish life in space. After 11 days in space, this experiment investigates the symbiosis between plants and bacteria in a zero-gravity situation.
341, check. 342, check. 343, check. 344, check.
Back on Earth, the whole team is impatient to know how the little green plants have survived.
Things under control. Prior to opening that seal, we're removing the gas sample. The carbon dioxide will give us a measure of the amount of growth and respiration, and the ethylene, an indicator of the stress that the plant has been under. That's good. Did you get a photo of that? All right, take another one. There you go. plants look quite good. They seem to have stayed in place, 100% germination, no contamination.
Under zero gravity, the symbiosis between plants and bacteria is a success. The bacteria created little nodules, or pouches, on the roots of the plants where they thrive.
It is now possible for plants to grow in space, seeds to germinate, seeds develop, produce flowers, pollinate, and produce viable seeds.
It should even be possible to harvest more fruit and vegetables in space, and in a shorter time span than on Earth.
A short season potato typically will take 105 days. We've been able to shorten that by optimizing light, temperature, and nutrients to 85 days and get twice world record field yields in 2/3 the time.
But in order to survive, how many plants will space adventurers have to take with them on their mission?
You would need about 20 square meters to produce all of the oxygen you need. It's roughly 40 square meters for all of your calories. And that would provide plenty of water, atmospheric regeneration, and food production for one. There is no most powerful plant. There is no lesser plant. Each has a role in its function. A life without plants would be a very sterile existence. I think it would be a noisy existence where machines are removing my carbon dioxide, pumps are sending me fresh air, filters are moving the water. It would be lacking in green, it would be lacking the aromas, the textures, the colors that come through plants and life and that surround us in my environment. I can imagine a life without plants. It's not one that I want to live.
Some plants have their feet rooted in the earth and their heads in the stars.
This little redwood tree is probably 2 years old. It may become a full-grown adult within 50 or 60 years, as tall as the ones behind us, but it will take hundreds of years for it to become as large as the biggest redwood trees on the planet.
Trees are the first to have invented skyscrapers, and redwoods are the masters of heights.
The tallest redwood tree is 115 meters tall. It's pretty hard to imagine how tall that redwood tree is, but it's taller than the Statue of Liberty and roughly equivalent to a 30-story building.
Emily Lim is scientific counselor of the nonprofit organization Save the Redwoods. Luckily today, she won't have to climb to the treetops to study their leaves. A high branch has just fallen at her feet.
Redwoods make 2 different types of leaves on the same tree. These here in my hand are from the forest floor. They grow in the shady parts of the redwood forest, where they have plenty of water but very little sunlight, so the leaves must be bigger. The leaves at the top of the redwood tree are much smaller. They are trying to conserve water and have a lot of light, so don't need leaves that are quite as large to do photosynthesis.
The forest grows in California, near the Pacific Ocean, which heavily influences the area's local climate. But just how do these trees hydrate during the hot season?
Fog comes rolling in during the summer, and it wets the part of the tree. All of these shoots help to capture that fog water. The fog water condenses on the leaves, it drips down to the forest floor, but it also gets absorbed into these leaves. It is incredibly hard for the tree to get water all the way up to the top of the tree where it needs it most. And so fog allows the tree to become hydrated directly, meters above our head.
The secret of their hydration is revealed. High up in the trees, water vapor is absorbed from the fog through millions of pine needles and their numerous stomata. Redwoods have grown in this area for millions of years and learned to survive under extreme environmental conditions, frequent forest fires. The trees have a super-resistant bark that acts as a fire barrier.
This redwood tree here is about 300 years old. And you can see that a fire actually did get past the bark layer and burned into the inside of this tree. Amazingly, it's still alive because these trees are incredibly able to resist fire. Here, the bark is starting to grow over the fire scar in the inside, and the bark eventually will cover up the entire cavity.
The majestic giant sequoias of Sierra Nevada are also members of the largest trees in the world. They have developed similar defense mechanisms, a natural fire barrier.
The bark at the base of the tree is really thick, and that helps protect it. It can be up to a foot or more in thickness, but that's only at the base. As you go up the tree doesn't need thick bark further up. The damage that's going to suffer is always primarily at the base. So as you go up, the bark thickens, and as you get up maybe 30 or 40 feet, the bark may only be an inch thick. They have the power to resist decay. They have the power to resist animal attack, insect attack. They have the power to resist fire. Virtually anything that is a threat to any other tree in the forest really is not much of a threat to the giant sequoia.
Even with their resistant bark, the giant sequoias are threatened. For Wayne and Wendy, the park rangers, humankind has disturbed the natural cycles of forest fires.
Fires burn more intensely since we started putting them out. We created a fuel load in the forest that creates a type of fire behavior that even giant sequoias have a hard time resisting. They evolved in the presence of very frequent low-intensity fires. Now they're getting very infrequent but very high-intensity fires that can kill them.
But low-intensity fires play a key role in the reproduction of these giants.
To me, it's really amazing that something so small can produce something so huge. It's about the size of a grain of oatmeal. And there are 200 seeds inside these cones, roughly. So if you figure that at any given time, there's 9,000 viable cones in a tree, that's 180,000 seeds that are sitting up in that tree ready to be released at any opportunity.
The seeds contain few nutrients, sparing them from insect attacks. The tiny little seed has to find fertile soil within a 3-centimeter radius from where it lands. Otherwise, it dies. Fires clean the forest and leave behind them fertile soil for the seeds. The heat rises high above the canopy, a signal to the tree that will prepare to release thousands of seeds. Their strategy of survival is in the quantity of seeds and the extraordinary longevity of those that reach adulthood. The giant sequoias of the Calaveras Big Trees State Park in California were amongst the first to be discovered in 1852.
The stump is about 24 feet in diameter right now. But just recently we found an old record from 1850s that indicate that at that time, when it still had the sapwood on, it was about 27 feet in diameter.
Such dimensions were truly inconceivable for the citizens of the 19th century. The discoverers of the giant sequoias had a rough time convincing the general public.
They peeled the bark off, took it to the city, reassembled it in the shape of the original tree, and tried to convince people that this is what the actual tree looked like. But no one believed it. They thought it was a hoax because no tree could be that big.
Today, researchers estimate that the biggest sequoia weighs 2,100 tons, roughly the weight of 30,000 human beings. These extraordinary trees have even mastered the art of being totally useless to humankind. Upon falling, the sheer pressure of their weight breaks the wood into pieces.
Virtually every other tree in the environment we've tried to find some use for, whether it provides food, lumber, construction materials, whatever. These trees have very little use. For a while, they were being harvested and turned into grape stakes and fence posts, which is a shame for such a massive tree to end up like that. But because it has such limited use, there was never any economic benefit to these trees. And so we can appreciate them just for what they are.
Visitors and locals speak of a powerful state of emotion when strolling amongst the giants. A spiritual voyage of body and soul, where all notion of time ceases to exist.
If I'm lucky, I may live to be 100 years old, and these things live to be 3,000 years old. They have an enduring quality about them that to me is really inspiring. They're powerful trees. And for me, it's almost like, and I think for a lot of people who come to Grove, it's like a pilgrimage. There's a sense of, certainly inspiration, a sense of awe.
The impressive longevity of certain trees may well intrigue us. Could the power of green withhold the secret to immortality? Have some trees found the means to fight against cellular aging? In the White Mountains of California, perched at an altitude of 3,500 meters, in a lunar landscape, the bristlecone pines are recognized as the oldest trees in the world. Their silhouette may resemble dead wood. Nevertheless, they are alive.
They've chosen to live here because there's nothing here to threaten them. You know, they're living in somewhat of a sterile environment. You know, it's free of a lot of pathogens and other things that would affect their health and eventual longevity.
The air is thin, the soil is dry, and freezes almost every night, even during their short 6-week summer. The oldest bristlecone pine tree is almost 5,000 years old and grows only 2.5 centimeters per century.
Almost all the cones on this part of the tree died at the end of the first year of their growing season. It takes a pine cone actually 2 years to mature. And we only have 2 of them that are going to make it to the end of their development.
Could the secret of their survival be wrapped up within their DNA? David Neal, geneticist at the University of California, Davis, seeks to find out if these trees possess adaptive genetic particularities, genes that may be different from one branch to another of the same tree.
These trees are adapted to live in this very high elevation zone. But if there's warming and they're forced to move to cooler places, there's no place for them to go. They can't go anywhere from here because there's no up from here. They're at the top. So the question is, can they adapt to live in this very environment if it becomes warmer here or not? You know, they don't have the ability to pick up and move if you don't like the environment like an animal does. It just picks up and walks away. These trees have to be able to survive right here where they are born. And do they have the genetic constitution to be able to do that? Surely bristlecone pine trees hold an invisible secret to their immortality. It's embedded within their genetic code. And that's why it's invisible to us. We have never been able to see or understand their genetic code. We expect to find some unique bits of genetic information. It may be very, very minor genetic changes, but that are uniquely held by this organism that allows it not only to live in this environment, but to live so long in this environment. What's interesting is they don't actually have to look old to be old. Probably the very oldest tree in this forest, you would never think it is the oldest. Again, that's part of their longevity. They don't seem to senesce or look old like humans and other organisms do. It can be old but not look old. If we can understand the genetic basis of longevity in a bristlecone pine tree, might we use that knowledge in order to increase longevity in other organisms, most notably humans who seem to want to be able to live forever?
True immortals are made of wood. age of a tree is not strictly limited to its appearance. The key to the secret of longevity in plants could well be hidden underground. With its massive root network, the aspen poplar could be the largest of living organisms on Earth.
And at first look, one would think that each one of these trees resulted from a separate seed that grew into an individual seedling and then a tree. But in fact, what we believe has probably happened here, that each one of these trees results from a shoot emerging from the root of a neighboring tree, such that every one of these trees is actually connected to each other through the underground root system here. And then, in fact, every one of these trees is not different, but they are exactly the same. In fact, this is a clone. All of these trees are genetically identical.
If a fire breaks out, their root network is well protected beneath ground. Even if the whole forest were to be destroyed, the roots would survive and trees would grow again.
The underground network of roots here is enormous in terms of biomass of these plants that may in fact have all resulted from a single seed at one point in time. Can you imagine this huge, many megatons of biological biomass having resulted from just one seed? Here's an individual stem or tree that looks like it's emerged from a root right here that's actually still staying in a lateral form like a root that hasn't even moved up into an erect form like the other trees. And we believe that poplars may be an example of some of the largest, if not the largest, living organism on Earth.
The race is on between scientists, each hoping to be the first to reveal the oldest aspen poplar of our planet. Some colonies may have roots that originated 80,000 years ago. It should not be long before genetic research reveals the truth. On another dimension, the plant that appeared most recently on Earth is a genetically modified petunia.
I have created a new kind of life. I added my own DNA to the plant. And because now this plant has human DNA, humans are animals, I call it a plantimal, a unique kind of plant that has animal DNA. So wherever you see the red veins of the flower, my DNA went from my red veins, that is my blood, to the red veins of the flower. You see red veins, my DNA is there. When you realize that your DNA functions, actually works in a plant, it can only work in a plant if we have something in common. And if we have something in common with plants, that shows very clearly that life is a network and we are all connected.
What you are watching is a natural plantimal. Elysia clarkii is half plant, half animal. To be more precise, these sea slugs are animals that behave like a plant. They can photosynthesize. The sea slugs have incorporated into their own bodies the photosynthetic cells of algae. When they do not find algae to feed on, they can remain 3 or 4 months without feeding, producing their energy exclusively from photosynthesis, exactly as plants do.
It is surprising because animals can't photosynthesize. Animals have to have some sort of energy input other than carbon and sunlight. Plants are the only organisms that can survive with just carbon and sunlight. And here's an example of an animal that does it quite well. I mean, animals aren't supposed to photosynthesize. That's an entirely plant-like characteristic. But here they are, and they do it very well.
To his surprise, Sidney Pierce discovered another species of sea slug, Elisa chlorotica. Even more efficient, this one can survive for an entire year without eating, producing all required energy entirely from photosynthesis.
As long as the food algae is around, these animals can continue to live very happily, and they don't need to photosynthesize at all. The trouble is they're sort of like my son, they eat constantly, and so if they run out of food, then they can photosynthesize.
While humankind focuses on solar panels as a prop for photosynthesis, these small sea slugs are well ahead in the race to a greener energy.
The way humans capture solar power is entirely mechanical and chemical, whereas the sea slugs are able to take the photosynthetic machinery already made right out of the algal cells and put it into their own cells. So I don't know who's doing better, but sea slugs are doing pretty good.
Scientists are trying to figure out how these sea slugs have evolved with the plant world. Could it be at all possible that one day we humans could do likewise? That a share of our cells originates from the plant world, and that some of our energy is produced through photosynthesis?
It would be nice if humans could do it, because you could just go out and lay on the beach periodically and stop eating food and paying for groceries and so on.
Science is incessantly pushing back the boundaries that have risen between the plant world and the animal kingdom. Such boundaries are perhaps not as strong as we once thought. Researchers are revealing a whole new world, a world which is very much our world. Life is a vast network, and everything is connected.